Okay, all right. So now welcome to this sessions of the CET 13.0 QA testing guide. So my name is Ngoi Hung. So I am a senior QA analyst. I located in the KL office. So I am in charge of testing customer extensions and also the quality review process. So in this session, I also have my colleagues.
Hi everyone, I'm Brian Yuan. I work as a QA in the KL office as well. And I work mostly in customer delivery projects. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy as we run you through the areas that you need to look out for when you're migrating to CET 13.0. Yep.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so in this sessions, I will start with my part first, and then my colleague Brian will take over with the rest of the topic in today's sessions. So to ensure that we have a smooth presentation process, we'll leave the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, you can either ask at the end of the session, or you can just type it down in the chat window in the Zoom. Yeah, so without further ado, all right, so before we start, yeah, please take note that to always check with your developers if they have done the migration changes on the extensions, yeah, before you start with your testing regarding the changes that we're going to go through today. Okay, so our first change is regarding the paper space. So internal development work has been done by developers in this section. So this causes changes not only in code-wise, but also graphical-wise. So one of it is the interface in choosing and organizing papers in the paper space. Yeah, so the first one is the paper. Okay, so the first one that you can see is that the UI in choosing organizing paper has changed in CET 13.0. So in this screenshot, you can see that on the left side, it shows how it looks like in CET 12.5, and on the right side, it is the new UI. So right now, the representation on how the paper is selected has a slight change. Yeah. So the second one is that the scrolling of the papers, the scroll button has been removed. So right now, it is being replaced by a conventional scroll bar instead of the button for you to click to scroll through all the pages. Right now, you can just use the scroll bars to scroll through it. Yep. Okay, so the last one is right now it also supports the drag and drop for rearranging purposes. So this doesn't only support in the paper selection on the bottom part and the paper space, it only supports drag and drop the papers in the paper manager. Okay. Yeah, so to ensure your manufacturer extension works well with these changes in the paper space, we recommend to run a smoke test on this few test cases that we are going to go through. So the first one is using your manufacturer extensions, generate auto papers and perform basic operations like add or delete papers, drag and drop papers, and copy paste papers. Yeah, so also using any paper tools, add 2D view clips, 3D viewports, images, dimensions, text, and lines to your manufacturer papers. Ensure that this operation does not cause any undesired outcome. Yeah, so try to focus more on 2D view clip and perform more tests in these areas. And lastly, also verify the output through the print preview or try to generate a PDF and ensure that your manufacturer logo, the header, and the related informations is still intact. Yeah, and the printed PDF report. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So the next change is regarding distant unit. So developers has made changes, especially in renaming some of the method in checking whether a distance unit is metric, and also added new methods to check whether a unit is an imperial. Yeah, this is to ensure a more accurate representation of the units, yeah, in CET. So with these changes mentioned, we want to recommend the following smoke tests. Yeah, okay, so the first one is using your manufacturer extensions. Place snapper in which has dimensions shown in 2D view. So especially kitchen manufacturers. Yeah, so do take note if there's any externals or customer that's working in kitchen manufacturer in this meeting. And you should also use the dimension tool to measure the snappers. Ensure that the distance unit used is still correct and the dimension measured is as expected. So also using manufacturer specific elevation tool, such as panel type elevation or storage elevation. Yeah, I can only give these are the two examples that specified here. There might be more elevation tool that are specific to your extension. So do try those. Generate elevation for your manufacturer snappers. Ensure that the distance unit and dimension shown in the elevation is correct and as expected. Yeah, you can also use the CET elevation tool to check for this if there is no specific elevation tool implemented in your manufacturer extensions. Yeah, so the third one is in paper space, use auto papers if your manufacturer extension has it, or insert a 2D view clip with elevation in paper space and ensure that the distance unit and dimension shown in the generated paper space is as expected. Yeah, try to test it with print preview and also generate the print report. Yeah. All right, next we have changes regarding material lab, or more exactly the PBR material. So we have done some minor changes to the material lab, material thumbnails. Yeah, and this is for consistency purposes. So with the latest thumbnails, right now it shows user a more accurate picture of what the material would look like before it is rendered. Yeah. So if you want to know about more info on how to adopt these changes, yeah, you can refer to the 13.0 developers migration guide. Yeah, I know this link is directed you to an article of more developer centric, but if your developer would like to know how to do this, yeah, you can direct them to this link. Yep, so from the screenshot shown here, you can see that the top part is what it is in CET 13.0, and the current official, which is the CET 12.5, it is represented like this as the bottom. So this is for category stone. And if you look at the next example for metal, yeah, the top part is what it's shown right now in our new CET 13.0 in the new thumbnail that we use in Material Lab. Yeah, so the bottom one, that's the current one that is used. Okay. Also regarding still in PBR material, so we are also targeting to release new material packs that are industry specific. So this means that each industry will get their fair share of the new materials to work on. Yeah, but however, right now we are only rolling out this latest edition for the CET commercial interiors edition for now. Yeah, so for the other material pack for, let's say, for example, for the material handling industry and for the kitchen and bath industry, so do stick around, and yeah, we will announce to you guys when we have the material pack available for the other two editions or the other two industries. Yeah, so this is some of the example of the materials that is in the material pack for commercial interior editions. The naming for these materials are not finalized as you are seeing it right now. Yep, so do check it during the release day or when you are migrated to the new material pack. Do check this out if you are from the commercial interiors industry. Okay, so with all this additional and changes, we would want to make sure that the material still works for you with in your extensions. So to make sure that it is still working fine, we would like to recommend the following smoke test instructions. So with your extension snappers, try changing to different materials in the quick properties or scheme manager to make sure that they look correct as before. Watch out in 2D and 3D especially, and perform rendering and ensure that the materials still look as accurate. Try also with save and load new or existing drawing to make sure there's no unintended visual changes happen to the materials. And create customer owned material, COM, yeah, to ensure that it still works. Yeah, refer to the photo screenshot on the right side. Yeah, for the screenshot for the customer owned materials, how it looks like. Okay. So next topic is regarding abstract wall. So improvements are done on the wall system, especially on panel wall and partition wall. And this is done specifically on these areas. So the first one is regarding for new door behavior. So new implementation are done to support new door behavior specific for doors in panes and not the standalone type. And also new alignment, new feature added in wall animation snapper, which is called alignment help. This is to help user to align wall to another snapper when placing a new wall. The third improvement is joint behavior. So this improvements is done to joint animation, direction, behavior that affect the change joint animation in general. However, I want to emphasize that these changes, these improvements are only available if the customization has been adopted by your developers. Yeah, so do check with your developers if you have any extensions that is using panel wall or partition wall. Yeah. So yes, so if these changes are adopted, so you might want to follow this test instructions. So the first one is using your manufacturer wall extensions, insert walls and office door, and ensure that the behavior when stretching walls with door is working correctly. The second one is insert a wall and then insert a second wall and enable the alignment help in the property box. Ensure that the dotted help line appear and works accordingly. Test with different snapping directions. Yeah. So the third one is try to connect new wall to the previous inserted walls to create a joint connections. Try snapping on all around the connection areas and ensure that the joint connections are working correctly. So if the above mentioned changes are not adopted in your manufacturer extensions, so all you need to do is to run a general smoke test on your current panel wall or partition wall system to make sure that it is still working correctly. And the second one is try to focus more on the stretching behavior of the wall or partition wall. The fix and improve this fix is to improve the overall stretching behavior, especially when working with door pan and on the outer side of a wall. Yep, hope I'm clear on this section. Okay, so the next change is regarding the catalog upload and download. So in CET 13.0, we did a lot of bug fixes and improvements, especially made to catalog download and upload process. This is to solve known catalog download issues and to improve its performance. So we would like you to focus on these areas when testing with your manufacturer extensions, especially the catalog extensions. Yeah. So the first one is to focus on the general download when the extensions is installed. And the second one is to ensure there's no repeated download of the catalog. The third one is the symbol downloaded are accurate and it can still be stretched or edited. Yeah, the symbols are present, means that they are not showing as a missing symbol black box. So try this with loading old drawings or insert any new catalog symbols from the toolbox. Okay, next one is to focus on the component tab, especially how it is displayed and the icons. Make sure that it's displayed correctly and there's no missing icons. And the last one is to pay attention on the overall performance when the catalog download is in progress. So it shouldn't affect your CET or how you are supposed to create your drawing when the catalog are downloaded in the background. So your CET should still be working and performing as usual. Yep. Okay, the next part is some changes regarding visibility settings. So developer has fixed performance regarding how layers are handled in CET. So when running regression tests for CET 13.0 using your manufacturer extension, we'd like you to pay attention to the following areas. So the first area to focus on when testing is on categorization. Second is the visibility settings of your snappers, your symbols. The third one is view modes. Fourth, filter. And lastly, view clips. Yeah, try to incorporate these 5 areas when you are testing with your manufacturing extensions. Yeah, make sure it still works. As always, that shouldn't be affecting your extensions. Yep. Okay, with that, I will move on to the 13.0, the new features that we are going to introduce in CET 13.0. So the first one is that we are now supporting undo and redo in categorization. So any categories that is assigned to a snapper will now have the ability to undo or redo depending on the user needs. So yeah, as you can see on the animation shown on the right-hand side. So when you assign a category to a snapper, yeah, you can now use the undo button to undo the action, or use the redo to redo what you have just undo, yeah, which is the action of assigning the category. All right, so with this, and to ensure your manufacturer extension still works well with the updated categorization, so we would like you to run the following smoke tests. So the first one is using your manufacturer extensions, assign them with any categories which is new, default, or manufacturer specific. Perform an undo or redo and ensure that the sequence of the actions are correct. And also test to see if this tag categories, new, default, or manufacturer specific, it appears and it can be used in filter, 2D view clip, and 3D viewport. Yeah, I am going to move away from the presentation slide for a bit to show you how this works. So, okay, so I have 4 snappers here. Yeah. So I'm just going to select one snapper, and I've opened up the categorization dialog. So if I'm just going to assign some categories to this sofa, and using this undo button, I can undo the action of assigning the categorization, the categories, and also using the redo, I can redo the action. Yeah, back to the snapper. Okay, this is it. A quick demo on this section. Okay, so back to the presentation. Yeah, so lastly, do not forget to try test with save and load with your existing or any new drawings, and ensure that the categories assigned are still intact. Okay. Next one is regarding part tagging. So the part tagging functionality has been improved for easier usability. So there should be a remove from selection button added in the part tagging dialog, which removes any prior applied tags from selection or individual. So if you have previously used tag individually or apply from selection to tag your snappers, now you can use this remove from selection button to remove the tag easily, yeah, from the snapper that has been tagged. Okay, so I am going to show you how this is done. So using back the same example from previously. So, okay, I will tag some snappers. So I will tag this using tag individually. And then this one I will use apply to selection. Yeah, and you see that it is tagged to room 1. So now I want to unassign the tag. So click this button. Yep, the part tag has been removed, and you can double check in this numbers here. And select this one, and then click remove from selection. Yeah, it is removed as well. Yep. Previously, if you would want to remove, you might not know that there is this property box here, which you can check it and remove. So it's kind of hidden now, yeah, right now in the current CET 12.5. So with this additional button here, it's kind of straightforward. So I can just select and remove. Yeah, I don't need to go to this kind of like the hidden feature that maybe not so many users know it is there. Okay, back to the presentation. All right, so to ensure that your manufacturer extension works well with the updated part tagging dialog, we recommended running with the following smoke tests. So by using your manufacturer extensions, apply individual or selection tagging to your extension snappers. So clicking on remove from selection should remove the applied tags completely. So ensure that the tag count on the category is correctly updated. And also please test part tagging using alternatives, as both the original and alternatives are using the same part tagging window. Yeah, so it is shared across different alternatives in a session of CET. So make some updates to the part text, label, or color and ensure that it is updated across all alternatives drawings. And lastly, ensure that the existing animation property for the tag individually still works for tag application and removal. Yeah, this is the removal property box that is mentioned. Yeah. So using this or either this one and the remove from selection should still work on your extension. Yes. All right. So with that, it will end my part of the presentation. So I would now pass it to Brian.
Yep. Thanks, Ihan. Let me share
Stop
my
sharing.
screen. Yep. Share my screen. All right, Ihan, are you looking at the right screen? My PowerPoint?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So you're still seeing the slides right now?
Yes, correct. I can see your slide.
Okay, so I'll be starting with the second half of the presentation. Now, the first one would be DWG. All right. Now, there are some code changes in the core DWG. So it is very important to make sure that the basic functions still work. Now, this is the CAT dialog, right? Now, to make sure that the most basic functions work, you open a CAT dialog, you import and insert your desired CAT file, and please make sure it can be inserted into the drawing successfully. That's the first thing you want to check. And the second thing you want to check is to verify its correctness. So this is very important to make sure there are no extra lines or missing entities. You don't want that. Okay. By doing this checking, you can compare it against a CAT viewer. Now, if you have AutoCAD or some other third-party CAD viewer, you can use those and compare to see if it's still the same. Then the third thing I want to check is to try out some basic CAD features. Now I can go to CAD layers, this tab over here, and you can try to hide or show or even changing the color of these CAD layers. Can change the default color. For example, I could change from gray to purple, for example, and see if it shows in the drawing space. You know, these basic functions just make sure that it still works in CET 13.0. And you should also try safe loading the drawing, make sure all of these modifications, they are still intact, and there should be no anomalies, nothing strange going on. And the last one, you can try by making your DWG a block, right? You make your CAD file a block, you block it, and then you export as a DWG again. Then you can either load it into a CAD viewer or you can re-import it back into CET. Then you might want to check if that second cycle changes anything. It should not. Okay, so that's about the DWG. Now, the next one you should look at is feature search. Now, feature search is a new feature that the developers implemented in 13.0. It's solely for better optimized performance when you work with points, lines, arcs, and circles. So these little guys right here. And this was also done in order to support feature snapping in the latest revision of the DBG features, but that is for a later version of CET. It's not going to be in 13.0. So what you're going to be making sure in this section is to make sure the snappability and the snapping behavior still works well. So if you're going to test this using your manufacturer extension, make sure all of these little guys right here, dimensions, straight, angle, radius, or chain, make sure it still snaps onto your extension snappers. And also watch out for the snapping behavior. It should be smooth and you should not see something funny. And you repeat test case 1 with help lines, construction tools, 2D lines, 2D arcs, rectangles, just to make sure it snaps to your manufacturer extension snappers. And you could also try repeating the entire 1 and 2 test case over here in paper space environment. And you can also try out with your extension's elevation view. Try if the dimension 2 still snaps to your elevation view, right? You can use the CT elevation 2 if your manufacturer extension doesn't have one. Now, it's just very important to check the snappability. Yes, Stephanie, you mentioned only 2D. I got your question. Were enhancements made to 3D dimensioning as well? Yes, you could also check the snapping in 3D dimensions. Yep, but major of the focus here is the 2D dimensions, but checking in 3D dimensions, it's an extra test case. Yep, you are right. Thank you, Stephanie, for your question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one would be general CIF export improvements. Now there is something new over here. If you open up your bill of material, you want to export to a CIF format, all right? You should see this setting buttons over here. This is new. And once you click on it, you should see a new dialog with a checkbox that says use manufacturer specific export. Now, what is this for, you might ask? Now, because right now, when you export as a Configura CIF, the general format, the manufacturer mappings, they are exported in the CIF by default. So that's why we're preventing this in CT 13.0. That's why we've made a toggle, which is the checkbox over here. So it is unchecked by default, right? So you will not get the manufacturer specific codes to be mapped when you use Configura CIF export. Okay, so when it's ticked, it will be automatically be mapped, but when it's unticked, only the default CIF text would be shown. Now, a very good first check is to see, first you need to know if your extension has any customizations for mapping fields. But if your extension does not have any, then you should just make sure that a general export with the checkbox tick or untick, it exports successfully for you. It should not crash. But if your extension has unique specific codes mapping, which is this one, then you should perform an auto export and ensure that the manufacturer specific text with information, they are shown correctly when this checkbox is ticked. When this is unticked, then it should only show the default CIF text without the manufacturer specific text. Now, for example, if you have a manufacturer specific format, for example, manufacturer A CIF, you can also try exporting that and compare it against Configura CIF with the checkbox tick, because it should show the same thing, all right? You may want to make comparison to ensure its accuracy if you have a specific manufacturer CIF format. Now, with that change, that I mentioned earlier, the new checkbox, of course, you want to make sure that the other export format still works fine for you, which is custom CIF. Right, custom CIF allows you to make a little bit of like customization, so you can rename your text to be shown in the exported CIF output. Now, the first one would be to test and or export of custom safe and ensure that these unique columns with values it can be configured, okay, and it can be shown correctly in the exported safe document. And the second thing you want to check is to involve part tagging. I'm just going to bring this picture out. So in this part tagging right here, it will also be shown in the exported safe. Now, I just want to make sure that your manufacturer default part tags. If you do not have any, you could try creating new ones. For example, tag 1 is the tag and the category of tag 1 here. Then this is what I've created. Then you can export a custom safe and make sure that it also shows in the exported safe document. Now, please make sure they are applied to your manufacturer snappers, right? Otherwise, it will not show in the exported safe document. All right, export as Configura safe, custom safe. There's a mistake right here. Custom safe and verify that the tag values appear as they should. This is custom safe. Okay, so I'll be moving to the new features that's going to be available in CT 13.0. And our first one would be real-time render. So in CT 13.0, we've created a new API. Okay, so with that, we've added support of direct link from CET to Twinmotion. Now, for those of you who don't know, Twinmotion is actually an external rendering software. It has to be downloaded separately. It is free, and to use this, you need to have an extra license, which is Twinmotion for CET, because this is a new extension by itself. And this is also applicable to all editions. So whether if you're coming from material handling, kitchen and bath, you will get this. So what is this about? Okay, so what it means is that you can now transfer your drawing into Twinmotion, which is an external rendering software. Okay, so I'm going to be going through the test instructions. Then I'm going to be doing a short demo as well. Okay, so if you're going to try this out using your manufacturer extension, you compare against CET, make sure everything is the same, all right? Make sure there are no missing materials. That's very important in Twinmotion. So what you see here, the color over here, it should be the same color as well. Check for material accuracy, especially if you have a transparent material. Then you can also try make changes to your drawing in CET. Then the status should show pending changes. You'll see later in the demo. And clicking on update, there should be an update button over here. Yep, this one. Then it should reflect in Twinmotion. Now, for example, if you're going to place a new table over here in CET, you click on update, it should be reflected in Twinmotion. And also very important, if you are going to be trying this out, check if Twinmotion extension is switched on. Okay, you're using it, then it should not stop other extensions to start. In a way, please make sure that this extension, it does not affect other extensions that you have in CT. Now, all of the extensions that you have in CT, it should run fine in CT 13.0. Yes, I get a question in the chat dialogue from Tyler. Will we be able to get license for the Twinmotion extension before 13.0 launches so we can test in dev and beta? I'm not so sure on this. Yihan, do you have an answer on this?
I am also unsure about this, so we need to check with our internal team and we can get back to you regarding this. Yeah.
Yep. We'll take it through the email. All right. I'll check and I'll let you know again if you could get the license before 13.0 launches. Okay, so back to the presentation. Okay. Okay, so I've talked about the test instructions. So let me go through the limitations. Now, this is a very new extension. so it is expected to be a little premature right now. So there are some shortcomings that you should take note of. Physical lights do not get transferred to Twinmotion. So if you have any of your light snappers in CT, you're not going to see the shine in Twinmotion. So rotation does not update in Twinmotion. Now, for example, if you rotate any of the snappers, it might not get reflected in Twinmotion. And in Twinmotion, there are also some light leak and inaccuracy between the wall and also the ceiling or the ground. So rest assured, we will have the shortcomings fixed in the later version after 13.0. Probably you will get fixed in patch 1 or later version. We'll see. Okay, so let me just do a quick demo. All right, so I have CET right here. Now this is the same drawing that you see in the slides. And this is the new extension. Now I also have Twinmotion open here. All right, it looks like this. Oops. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a connection to Twinmotion. I'm gonna click start. Okay, right now it's telling me no direct link found. Please open Twinmotion, create a direct link to this drawing. So what you're gonna have to do in Twinmotion, click on import, and you should see something here called direct link. And automatically it detects the mapping from CET. And this is the name of my drawing as well. So all you have to do is to click on import, and you should see it in Twinmotion. Where is it? Aha. So let me just quickly go to the space that I've created. So this is how it looks like in Twinmotion. Right? So this is the living hall, this is the bathroom, and this is the bedroom. So what happens if you add a new snapper in CT? How can you update the changes? So let me just get this out of the way. For example, I'm just gonna add a table like this. Then you go back to the extension. It will tell you that you have pending changes. You click on update changes, and automatically you should see it appear in Twinmotion like this. I think it's a very cool feature that you should try out using your manufacturer extensions. But Tyler, we'll get back to your question after the session over here. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, so this is one of the new feature in CT 13.0. Okay, so that's the end of the new features. Now, another thing that we like to mention is that after you've migrated to 13.0, please make sure that the performance is okay for you. All right, that's because performance plays a very important role, and that will affect CET's usability experience. So as we add more new features and more enhancements into later CET versions, it's gonna get slower or even faster. We don't know. So we want you to check to see if you're affected. Now, we actually have some basic checklists, okay? A basic checklist that we would like to show you. Now, we would like to remind you to turn off any unused extensions. So if there are any extensions that you do not use, please switch it off, and that would contribute to faster CT loading and startup. And after you have migrated to 13.0, you can also run a basic memory leak test by using Task Manager. Now to fire up Task Manager, you can use the shortcut key by clicking on Control, Shift, and Escape. This is what you will see. All you have to do is to be on the Processors tab, then you keep an eye on the memory usage. Then look for CET Designer, EXE. So when you have CT open, this is the process you should look out for. So please check that the CET Designer, it is not taking too much of the memory, all right? You can compare this against the older version of the CET, more like a regression test. Make sure the memory consumption is not maxed out. Right now, I'm only using 60%, 63% of my entire computer memory. So it's not that bad compared between old and new CET. Now, if you see that it actually eats up too much of your computer's memory, mainly coming out of CET designer process, then you should report to dev support because there might be a potential performance issue that you're going to face. So this is some basic memory leak tests that we want you to check just to see how it's going on your machine. Okay, Yihan, do you want to talk about this? This is the response monitor.
Okay, yeah, sure. So other than checking for the memory leak, you can also use response monitor to check the basic actions to determine whether is there any performance issue in your extensions. So the response monitor is available in the QA tools. So you need the QA tools license to be able to use it, and it is free. So if you do not have this yet, you can request from Marketplace, and we will have our team member approve your request to using the QA tools. So using the QA tools, you can check the time differences in these areas like the system startup time, and then you can check what is the time uses by your extensions when you place the first snapper while stretching, copy pasting, creating alternatives, save and load, and even in material applications. Because I think some of these actions do contribute to some performance issue. So we would like you to check on your extensions as well. If there are any potential performance issue in any of these actions, yeah, please report it to developer support so that we are aware, and then we can try to fix the performance issues in your extensions, or maybe it's related to the CET core. Yeah, so our R&D team would be able to do investigation and fix it. Yep.
Okay. That's the end of our webinar session for CET 13.0. Now, we've actually created a 13.0 QA testing guide. Okay, so let me just show you quickly. Okay, so this is the guide that we have created. You can find more information in this guide here, and please give us a few days. We will attach the link of the recording of today's session as well. Okay, then there you can also check out the QA testing tools manual. There you can find instructions on how to use response monitor. Like, let's not have it. Okay, right here. QA testing tools, click on response monitor. And this will give you a brief idea how you can use it. Then another thing you should look out for is the general smoke test guidelines, which is the third link right here. Now, aside from the test instructions that we've shown today, on top of that, you can also add your own smoke test cases by following these guidelines over here. You know, just to make sure some other things out of the focus area still works fine for you. And you can also check out the older QA testing guides if you're interested. Now, we also have something called migration workshops if you don't know already. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in there, we're going to be providing any updates that we have from both from the dev and also from the QA side. Now, it's going to be every Monday starting next Monday. It's going to happen for 4 weeks straight. Okay, every Monday for 4 weeks. And these are the available sessions. So grab a seat if you are interested. And last but not least, send us questions, testing questions related to, questions related to testing at qasupport@configura.com. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Yep, thank you, Stephanie. You can send us questions after the session at qasupport@configura.com. Then we will answer your questions. You can also ask in the migration workshop if you're in any of the sessions here, because we will be inside to answer your QA questions if you have any. Okay, that's all we have. We will see you in the next 13.5 migration, hopefully.